Hello and welcome. Let's finish off this auth component. So we'll finish up our login sign up toggle, and then we will put the image behind it and to the left of it as well. And we'll do all the resizing that we need to do. Let's get started right away. So just go up to the top of authenticate. We're bringing in React from React. We also are going to need use state. So let's bring that in, use state. And let's make our variable for it. So we'll have a const called submit val, and then set submit val. And I hope this is getting a little more comfortable here as we keep using use state. And inside of use state, it's going to start on login. That'll be the norm. So we can save that and we set it up. Now, all we have to do is set up one function. And what it's going to do is take the target's ID and it'll pass it to, set submit val, which will set this variable submit val to login. So here's how that function is going to work. We'll have a const called options click. So if you click one of the options, this is what's going to happen. It's going to take an E, which means the event. On the event, there is a e.target, and the e.target.id is the ID that we defined right here. So we will set submit val with e.target.id, and we can save that up. Now let's set up our classes. So we'll set up classes, and these are going to be our class names basically. Inside of classes, we'll let login class, that will equal submit val triple equal to the string login, because that's what it'll get passed to it when it's clicked. This will be login, the string. So if it is equal to the string login, and I'll put this on a different line here, that's the question. What happens there? We'll have two different submit vals, these two. I'll pop them right in here. That's not the way to say it, I'm sorry. We'll have two different class names within this div. So the submit val is what is up here. We won't have two of those. What I'm saying is we'll have two class names inside of this div, which means that this div will be that blue and the other div will be the gray as of right now, because it'll only have that one class name. So we'll put that in right here. So if the submit val is triple equal to login, so if that's what it is, the auth option to login styling is applied, as well as the auth options clicked styling is applied, making it blue. And then otherwise, I'll just put that on the next line, and then it's just the first one. And now let's just go to do one more class, and I bet you can guess what class it'll be. It'll be the signup class. So let signup class, and it's just going to be the exact opposite of this entire thing. So I'll put it like this: if submit val triple equals submit, and that's how we wrote it, right? Oh no, we wrote signup. Triple equals signup. I keep saying submit val for some reason. Okay, now we have these two classes. One of them is the login class, one of them is the signup class. Let's go to login, and we'll replace the class name with login class. And here on signup, we'll replace the class name with signup class. Save that, head over, and you can see what's going on right now. Login is activated, and it's not because we forced it on there. This is dynamic. It's checking that submit val is triple equal to login. If it is, it's giving us that auth options clicked value added to the class name. Now let's get this functioning now. So we have this div with the class name login class, ID login, but what we really need is an on click. It's going to take in, well, let's make sure we equal, open up our brackets. So our on click will take in E, which is the event, and it will pass it to options click like so. So we give options click E. And we just have to copy this down to sign up, and we are all set. Let's make sure by trying to use it. So login is highlighted, and now sign up is highlighted. And now login is highlighted. This is perfect. This is working exactly how we want it to. With that working, we're in real good shape now to move to the composition. So the composition actually will contain the image, the background, and on the side of it, image that we're using along with our login signup component. So let's get that started within Auth. So inside of Auth, make a new component, call it the auth comp. So the auth composition.js. Head inside of auth comp and we'll do our boilerplate, import React from React. And let's make sure we import authenticate from, and then we just have to find it. It should be in the same folder. Perfect. Authenticate. Now const auth comp will be a fat arrow function. Inside of there will be a return, and the return, let's just make this real quick. We'll have a div with the class name equal to auth-comp, and inside of there we just need a left and a right. So let's make a div with the class name auth-comp __ left. Close that up, and actually that can be self-closing, to be honest with you. Oh, well, let's undo that. Yeah, that could be self-closing. And then we'll make a div with a class name auth-comp __ right. And inside of there is where the authenticate component is going to go. Now, in order to see this, we want to export it first and then use it within the page that we're using. So export default auth comp. And now let's head into pages. And in pages we have auth, and we're no longer importing authenticate. We will import, and it'll be auth comp from, and we could find it again, to up to components. Oh, one up to components. Then to auth, then to auth comp. Now we're going to return auth comp, and we still have something on the page. So that's what we're looking for. We are working, and it's working properly. I accidentally got rid of my terminal that was running yarn run scss. Let's get that back up and running because we have a lot of styling to do. So our auth comp has 3 different classes over here that we're going to get started on now. So in scss down here, let's make a new file, _auth-comp.scss on top. Add import and bring in variables. And then we know the first thing in there is .auth-comp. And we could save that up. I keep making the same mistake. Make sure you do your semicolon, then save it up and bring it into main.scss. So import ./auth-comp. Okay. And I do like to restart this when I bring in a new piece of code like that. So I did restart this because sometimes I run into trouble, so I just do it out of habit now. Let's talk about what it's supposed to look like. So here is our auth comp. We have this left side and we have this right side over here. And in between, there's some linear gradient fading into this nice gray in the background from the photo so that we could see the login and sign up nice and cleanly. So this would be the auth comp, all the outside of it. This would be the break between left and right, and you could see on the right side we have what we made in the last video. So let's get started in auth comp. We'll have a display of flex, a width of 85% viewport width, that's VW, so not the entirety of it quite yet. A margin of auto, so it knows where to be in the middle of the page. A background image, Now here's how we're going to actually set the image we're going to use. First, we're going to do a linear gradient. Inside of linear gradient, we're going to define which direction it goes. To the right will be the direction, and we're going to comment to two different RGBAs. The first RGBA will just be the color dash white, and we could just pass in 0 as the alpha. We made a color transparent, and it won't matter anymore if we pass 0 or whatever here. We want it to be absolutely transparent at this point is what we're saying. And at 35% is when we begin the change. And what are we changing to? We're going to change to a different color. So RGBA, and in this color, it's going to be the color gray light. So color dash gray dash light. I wrote fray light. So color gray light is where it'll be at the end, and I want that one fully at 1. And we could do that at 50%. And to be honest with you, now that we have this transparent color, we don't really need these RGBAs, so I'm just going to refactor this pretty quickly here. So we have that color at 35%, and we'll have this color at 50%. Good, so let's save that up. And now we're going to add in the photo. So after all of this, but still within this background image area, just comma out of this and type URL. And we're just going to add in the image. So go to images, and this one's called Keep Learning. And let's take a look at that, and something's wrong. I wrote something wrong. Oh, right here. It can't be 85% viewport width. That's not how you say it. 85 viewport width means 85% viewport width. In this image, it does look like something now, but we can see that this really doesn't look like much of an image. It's zoomed in way, way too much. So head back out here, and after background image, we're going to do a background size. And that will be contain. Let's take a look at that. There we go. Now we're looking a lot like how we had it. It's looking pretty good now. Okay, so we want this to come to the right side, meaning everything on the left needs to be given some sort of width to it. So let's work on that now. In auth comp, we'll say end underscore underscore left, and just give it a width of 100%, and we'll also do end underscore underscore right and give it a width of 100%. So yep, now it's 50-50 and they're fighting over that width. That looks pretty good. And I think you could see here there's some sort of repeat happening, and that's what contain does. Check this out. I'll get rid of the colors so we could see what happens with the image only. And here you go. So that's what contain does. We're going to keep the picture the right size and just place it a few times. If that bothers you a lot, that there's that line and it's visible on the biggest screen, you can kind of just move this over. You don't have to start it at 35, start it at 25 and move it there by 40. And you could cover that up at higher breakpoints if you'd like to cover for those sorts of things. But right now, I think we're pretty good, and most screens are going to not be full screen like mine is. It'll be more like this, meaning that it'll be covered pretty much. And I just want to do a little bit of work to the right side. We have that width at 100%, but I want to do a padding of auto, and then we'll do padding top. And this is just a really cool way of being able to do things. Whatever you put last gets printed basically to the screen. So if I do a padding auto, it'll handle my left-right for me since I'm going to say padding top, padding bottom. Of course, the better way of doing this would be to say padding, your first one is top and bottom, your second one is left and right, but it's good to also see different ways that you might see it while you're working. Let's justify the content at auto. And let's keep the overflow Y hidden. So we don't want this ever getting out of the top or the bottom of its container. That would look pretty poor. But here's what we have now. So even just doing that, making it a little taller, now we won't have the line in the middle like I showed you before, because this is actually coming a little bit higher than it was before, meaning the picture widens and so on. Our component is really looking good now, but we need to start working on its presentation when it gets smaller. So when this starts shrinking down, we really are starting to lose it, and this doesn't look good at all. You see what happens there. Now we go into this sort of situation. We don't want that. We actually will never get this small. So let's say somewhere around here. This will be maybe a smaller cell phone. We don't want this to happen at all. Let's work on that next. So once we get to small, and that will be at include MD, so at the medium point, I feel like it gets a bit too small, and we're going to take away the width of the left portion. So there no longer is a left portion. The width goes down to 0, and now we just have the right portion to deal with. Let's take a look at what that looks like real quick. So now we get too small, and the width of the left goes down to 0, forcing this into the middle, and we're looking for that to happen. Now, when we hit the middle, we're going to want this image to be right in the center as well. So in our auth comp component, under that will be at include MD as well. And inside of there, we're just going to do a background image. Now, the background image is just going to be this URL right here. So we'll just grab that and paste it in. And now we'll also do a background size, and that will be cover. And then two more things, a height and a width. So let's do our height will be, let's say 50 rem, and our width will be 100% this time. So 100 viewport width, VW. Let's take a look at what that goes to now. Okay, and now we have the entire photo in the background and the login on top. It's looking good, but it's really hard to see this login form, so we need to adjust for that. We'll head down to the login form, which is on the right side here. So after right, we will at include, and then MD. So inside of our include MD, let's change the background image. So the background image, this is going to be a radial gradient. Type in circle. So this is going to be circle from the center, and we'll do RGBA, and it'll start with color gray light at 1, and that'll start at 30% to change to, and the color it'll change to is actually the same color, just at 0.5. And it'll change there by 70%. Let's take a look at what that looks like. There we are. Now we have this radial blur coming from the center and then getting darker as it hits the outsides. It doesn't get fully darker as it hits the outsides because we have it stopping at 50. Well, we have it stopping at 0.5. So say if we brought this down to 0.1, you could see it get darker and darker as it hits the outside. And this does look kind of cool, but I'm going to keep it how it was, and we can make changes later on, try it at a different point, this point, that. I think this looks pretty good. So now we have this resizing login form that fits all different screens and really looks great. I want to now be able to do two different things. I want to be able to go to the landing page by pressing this over here, the logo, and I want to be able to go to the login page by pressing login over here. So let's work on those two things next. We'll head back into our editor and go up to src components, and it'll be the header. Now inside the header, we have the header login. That's right there. We no longer need this input, so this import, so we'll get rid of that. We need a different import now. We're going to work with a package we worked with before. So import with router from react-router-dom. So that is our with router. Now they're going to be changing this. I mean, this component will still exist, but they are going to work on doing this with hooks. It says it in their documentation, and they might even be done with it before we're done with this video series. If they are, we will refactor this at that point. But this is how you use with router. It's a higher order component, so you need to wrap your export with it. With router, and then we wrap header login. Now we have access to the with router props, and we have to give that right here when we define our const, our header login, give it props right there. Now all we need to do is make a little function here. We'll call it const nav login, make it a fat arrow function, and inside of it props.history.push. And what you want to do is push in the /auth. Now what's happening is we're pushing the /auth on top of the history stack that comes with React Router DOM. You should look at a router as a stack of papers on top of each other, and once we put a new piece of paper on top of it that says .auth, it goes to the auth login. Now if you press the back button, it'll go to the piece of paper that was under the auth piece of paper. So that's what we're doing. Push is putting another piece on top of the stack, and we're saying we want that piece to lead us to auth so we could go to the auth page. Now let's just define our on-click here. So we'll just write on-click, and inside of that is going to just be a arrow function pointing to our nav login, and invoke it. So that should be working now. Let's give that a shot. I'll have to press back now, won't I? Not too many times. Cool. And now I'll press the login button, and here we are in Auth. So we're going to try this one more time and get the logo to bring us back to our home page, our landing page. Let's head over to our logo. That's in header left. And let's get our router in here. So import with router one more time here from React Router DOM. Great. So now we have that imported. We have to wrap this header. So with router, and then we wrap this. And now we hand it props because it gets props from the router now. And we'll make our function, const nav home. Fat arrow function, and inside of there we'll do props.history.push, and we will push to just the slash. That's all we need to go to because that is our home there. That is our landing page. And now let's get that inside of our component. On the image itself, we'll have an on-click, and the on-click will equal a arrow function. The arrow function will point to nav home and invoke it. Let's give that a shot now, and we can get back to that page. Great. So these buttons are both working. Our components are looking awesome, and we can take it from here. And next we'll start working on the product page, which is right here. So there's a lot to do here, and it does look really cool. We have another React hook to write to work on this. There's a lot more to do. And thanks for being with me on this one. I can't wait to see you on the next one where we get started on this page, our products page. See you there.